Alright, everybody. We're going to let everyone just sort of trickle in, listen to this awesome music. And if it sounds dreamy or emotional, it should be. You know, life's emotional. So just chill, sit back, relax. Listen to my horrible piano playing, organ playing. Just chill, relax. Got the God voice on. We're gonna go through about maybe another 5-10 minutes of this. So if you're here and you're in the chat, just say hello. And today it's gonna be a little bit different, just like every day. Same theme, just different talking points. Really enjoy this opportunity to play badly. But, getting the chance just to play is something I am truly thankful for. Now, before you realize that I'm messing up constantly, ask yourself, could I be artificial? Could I? Not you, me. Could I have tricked you in some way to make you think that I'm human? Did you go, man, this guy really sucks at what he's doing? He's sort of ugly. He's sort of weird. But maybe that's the way that AI might trick you. So, like I said, do you think an AI can pull that off? I say absolutely. Do you think an AI can wear goofy glasses like this, two sunglasses on top of each other? No, I don't have an eye thing. I have a music thing. Throw some piano in there. right,
Con tu terminal
let's
Point de Mercado Pago recibes tus fondos.
go ahead and turn off the God voice.
Do you want to know why the pros make guitar look so...
And I'm tired of everything just coming on. Sometimes you get alerts, sometimes you want to turn them off. Sometimes you want to be a twitcher, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just want to hang out, do your cool thing, look cool, and then you're not. But then again, that's the whole point of this stream. My name is Ted DeJour, and as you can see, I go by Time Dead Alpha. Now, today I put up a particular concept, a title, and sort of grab you and pull you in. And I said, hey, if you could vote for AI governance today, would you do it? And it's not even a rhetorical question as much as it's ask yourself this. Just ask yourself the question, how automated is your life? How automated are you right now? And I know you guys have all heard this. It's one of the biggest critiques of human culture right now. Not just American culture or British culture or Western culture or Eastern culture. Everybody is sort of in this automated sphere right now. Like even this right here. Like this is automatic. It's not like I'm sitting behind this camera using film that has to go get developed and then put it in some type of packaging that has to be broadcast from a big, huge media station. I remember when I saw this picture once that says, hey, do you want your, own production system? And it had a microphone set up like this, and it had a video camera, like a really nice video camera. And then it had like all these wires. It had a soundboard. It had all these things, and it cost tens of thousands of dollars. And this was an ad from the 1980s, and then right next to it was sort of like a meme. It was like, you have all of these things just sitting there in your hand right now. And I think one of the craziest things is now everyone has the ability to say something, and yet we aren't recognizing something. And that's why, not just for this stream, but for everything. This is why I have to say these things in the way that I say them, not because I'm going absolutely batshit crazy, but because I need to remind myself who I am and where I come from so that you can answer that question appropriately and say, hey, is this guy for real? Is this guy, or is he a machine? Is he AI? Is he there to trick me? Because I'm telling you, if this isn't already been, in the works, and if you can't see this coming down the pipeline, and I'm not here for fear porn either. I'm not here to say, hey, AI, is going to eventually be able to do everything that I'm doing. And it's going to be able to accentuate itself. It's going to be able to know when the pauses are at such a precise level that it will be able to convince you, the human, who has a unique communication habit, of its own ability to be your puzzle piece, right? And the reason that I say that, and the reason that I say, I've changed a lot, over the past 7 years since I got out of the military. I've been sort of on my own hero's journey quest to understand my reality as I see it. Not according to Jordan Peterson that just came around in like 2007. I'm not surprised that Jordan Peterson showed up in 2017. I'm not surprised at all. Where it's just like, it's one of those famous Star Wars quotes that says, hey, if you have evil that comes in the form of your politics, right, you will have a good that rises to meet it. Now, depending on your perspective and where you're watching this from, if you're on the hardcore left, you're probably saying Jordan Peterson is the bad guy. If you're on the hardcore right, you're saying Trump, or you're saying like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are the bad guys, and that people like AOC are the bad guys. It's like, hey, well, at the end of the day, they are just presenters of information. They are just actors, and they are banking on the fact that you treat them as royalty. Listen to that again. They are banking on the fact that you treat them as royalty. You don't have to. You can call them fucking cocksuckers if you want to. And I've heard a ton of people say it about Trump, but for some reason, the other side seems to be immune from that type of rhetoric. And it constantly gets put in, the same speech that if you were to use directed at the opponent is considered hate speech. And I think there's a reason for that. And that is because the sensible, conservative is the sensible one. and you hold the sensible people accountable, and you don't hold the unsensible people accountable, because it's our human nature to look at the uneducated, the retard. It's okay to do that and say, hey, that person's retarded, so it's okay for them to drool on themselves. That person is mentally unhinged, so it's okay. And we have, there's video on top of video on top of it. I think there's like at least 10 to 20 new videos that are coming out every day of some blue-haired person screaming at the top of their lungs that they deserve to be left alone because of their anxiety, because of their ADHD, because of their problem. And us as the society, we have to say, yes, we give them a little bit of latitude because of their disability, And unfortunately, though, it's like the caveat, the payoff of that is that the sensible people are listened to. That's the caveat. It's like, hey, we allow this so that you can, go about your day, even though your day is probably a little bit harder than mine because you have some things going on. No different than a person in a wheelchair saying, hey, I'm going to make a special spot just for you called the handicap spot so that your day that's already hard enough can be just a little bit easier. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Now, what's sickening, and I have to say this now that I've said all that, is when people, and everyone knows these types of people, they will go and print themselves out their own handicap sticker. They will abuse that system. And they will say, oh yeah, you have to do this for me. Or they will use it as instead of a thank you to society, they will turn around and demand society continue the handouts. Or they will watch somebody that is in direct need and who will abuse and fraud the programs that we have put together as the sane people in order to, circumnavigate the thing that we all enjoy, which is work. And I know there's people out there like, screw work. I was like, well, if you say that, get ready, motherfucker, because here it comes. AI is coming for your work. They're coming to take your jobs, right? Like South Park said, they took your jobs. But in the place, and what AI would do is it would make sure that your comprehension of financial communication, like how we use our fiat currencies to exchange between one another, it would take that away and say, hey, you don't need that anymore because anything you want, you'll have. And I know there's people, out there right now that might be watching me whose brains are just clicking and turning like, how could you say that? There's no possible way that that's true. There's Ted, what's going on? And I'm going, just back up, man. My job for a really long time was to figure out extremely difficult problems for people like you. That was my job. And you trusted me with that. You said, hey, Ted, why don't you go out there and you fight the big baddies and the horrible terrorists that we've contrived and that we've made up out of our buttholes. And then we'll tell you with our awesome intelligence who the bad guys are. And remember, that's your job. Kill people, break their shit. So if you trusted me with that, I'm going to ask you to trust me with this. AI was a wheelhouse that is exactly what we were attempting to do in the military. And it's not just a military thing. Look at any business. Look at, TurboTax. Look at how everything, even your taxing, has gone automated. Everything, that is important to us, we want to do it just a little bit easier, and so we can get back to putting our feet up. In the military, I learned a great concept. It was called eat your broccoli first. And the reason I say this is because that's sort of what we've done as an entire society. We have eaten our broccoli first, and all that's left is the meat and potatoes. And then we got the final dessert that we haven't gotten to yet because we have people that are so deluded in our society, so messed up in the head, that they want to continue the idea that everyone else should eat broccoli but them. No, you need to eat the broccoli. I'm not eating the broccoli. I only want meat and potatoes, and I demand that you eat my broccoli. So if you're following this small little story, the idea is embrace your suck first. Do your hard work first so that you can retire, so you can put your feet up. And I'm saying we know about that type of stuff on an individual level. What about on a society level? What about on an American-wide, a country-wide level of putting our feet up? I mean, I guarantee you those people over there at the Federal Reserve were just having their taxes roll in without them lifting a fucking finger. They got their feet up. Just watching that money roll in. So if they're going to automate that, I mean, I think like I said, that equilibrium is going to come back into balance where the people in power are going to realize that, hey, everyone's got something. And so what are they really addicted to? Are they really addicted to money? Are they really addicted to, getting more from their constituents? Or are they just addicted to the power trip? No different than a shopaholic who's addicted to shoes, who sits there and goes, oh, I need a new pair of shoes. And as soon as they get that new pair of shoes, they're like, oh, shit, I need a new pair of shoes. And it's an endless cycle. It's an addiction. And that's one of the fun things about going through, this idea right here is because I get to learn about a lot about addiction. Like when I was a missionary in this church right here, I had to go to the jails and I had to teach people in the prisons. And this was in Muskogee, Oklahoma, of all places. And I remember going in there with the bishop and having to teach the sex offender block about chastity. Imagine that. This was not a fun lesson to teach, but it taught me something about, man, this is my job. This is what I do. This is how I get people to understand that there is an easier way to go about your life. And even to this day, I'm not here to be a priest. I'm not here to be your guru. I'm not here to be the guy who knows everything and you come ask him. All right, I'm the type of guy that's just going to go, hey, here comes the future. Have a nice day. Bye. I'm going to go sit on a beach and eat my own popcorn. Right? I'm going to have my own way of dealing with this, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this. This is my hobby. It's also a way of me leaving my own personal thumbprint in the world, because I know that this is being recorded. I know it's being assessed. I know it's being backed up over there at Amazon, right? And eventually, it's going to be processed into the consciousness of this new being, this gigantic being, right? This thing that we will never comprehend. Just like you can't comprehend how the words that I'm coming out right now is being transferred and processed so fast that it's hitting your eardrum almost exactly at the same time that I'm speaking it. You know how this works. You talk into a microphone, it comes out. But you don't know how fast that is actually happening. They're talking, there's this idea in physics where you talk about the speed of light, and I just go, but do you know how fast? Can you imagine? Like, you have no other sensory perception of how fast the speed of light, except for this apparatus that we built, right? Imagine when that apparatus starts making its own choices. And that's the world that we get to play with. That's the world that we get delivered. Back in the 1980s, they had the Cold War. They had the Vietnam. The 70s, they had the Vietnam. Before that, you had your Cuban Missile Crisis. Before that, your World War II. Every generation has a version of this, and they have a giant falling away. And usually, it's been in the form of death. I come from a different scenario where I say, this new form of death for this generation, this one that's coming into existence right now, it's going to be a death of immortality. And just sit with that for a second. It's like, how could someone be immortal and die? And I would say, well, you almost die every day, a little bit every day. A little bit every day you let go of who you were yesterday, and by falling asleep and then waking up. And to everyone else, you are no longer part of this world. Now, imagine if you did that forever, or at least your concept of forever as you think of it today. I would say when you get to a point where you can manipulate the biology and the consciousness that inhabits it to copy paste, no different than you do in your own file folder, the idea that you could copy paste your whole self, something like out of the Netflix movie Altered Carbon. This is going to be very real. Imagine that hard drive that you have sitting on your desk, like I do. That could house your entire consciousness, or just, versions of your consciousness. And I think it's a new way for us to think of things as humans. But first and foremost, we have to get rid of the old way. No different than, the forefathers of America got rid of royalty. They got rid of it. They said, no more royal bullshit. No more divine kings. No more God done said, and you get your way. No more of that. We want all people to be equal so that we all have the right to say if we're inspired. We all have the right to, no matter where that inspiration comes from. And when you look at how that Constitution was drafted, and you look at the people that had founded it, and you start going, okay, what is a Mason? And why is that still a very hidden topic, taboo subject today with everything else being laid bare? Right? Imagine this. Everything is laid bare for you to go through and understand at a click of a button. Even 20 years ago, if you wanted to know anything about Masons, Mormons, esoteric, blah, 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 you better go spend a lot of time in that library, and a big chunk of that time is going to be looking shit up. Now, everything is sort of distilled, and you can just type it in, and the subject itself comes to you. All you have to do is just have the, enough patience, balance, discipline to just sit there and listen. And that's it. And I know this is going to fall on deaf ears that need to go out there and make their big booty TikTok videos, because that's how they get their, response system. That's how they get their dopamine hit. It's like, hey, look how many people are watching me. And I have to say, up front, it's like, dude, this isn't for you. I started this stream in the same 24 hours that my son was born. And I'm doing this, so that one day when all this stuff happens, when all this, when everyone's like nuclear war and blah, 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 it's like, no. Think simple. Think of the things that we'd want. We wanted faster cars. We wanted faster planes. We wanted faster ways to transport ourselves from A to B so that we could have these first-time best experiences. Now, imagine that whole idea of having that first-time experience and building a world that is just engineered for that. When you buy something off of Amazon, when you go to the store and you're picking up that thing that you've been saving up your little monies for or whatever, or you buy that new pair of shoes, all you're really buying is the experience. That's it. And right now, AI is watching everything you do to engineer that experience for you. And the best way to do that is to watch you while you're not thinking about it, so that it can give it to you when you finally do. It needs to be able to surprise you, otherwise you will reject it. Go back to, there was a great movie that came out in 1999. It was called The Matrix. And a lot of people look at that movie and make fun of it, and they say, oh, it'll never happen, blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying, no, get rid of the drama of it. Get rid of, the little, robots that come out and kill you. Get rid of that and just listen to that very first part where he's like, all you are is a clump of sensations. That's your personality. That's it. And now imagine that clump of sensations. And people have described this. They call it love, right? They say love is the recognition of your soul in somebody else, or your recognition of your soul and an experience. And I'm of the opinion that word love has been so cheapened to such a point that I have never even used it with the person that I've decided to spend the rest of my life with. I told her from day one, I will never tell you that I love you. I will never use that word on you. And the reason that I told her that was because it was an infantile word. And I wanted her to know that she was special and that she was set apart and that she meant something more to me than anything else and anyone else that I'd ever met. And the way that I could do that is to not treat her like everybody else. And that was the best way, is like to do that. So I find my own ways of expressing that emotion, because it's just a raw emotion that we attached a symbolic word to. That's all we did. I was like, hey, I'll find a different way to do this so that you know that I mean it. And so that's another reason why I'm doing this, is so that when my son grows up and says, hey, what's your dad do? And I was like, he prepares people for the inevitable. I was like, well, what's the inevitable? It's like the inevitable, never-ending dream state that is going to become your existence, right? So if I were you, right, and here's the warning. It's not like, I'm holding a sign here saying the end is near. What I'm saying is the end is of what you think this world is coming, and it's going to be replaced by your deepest desire, your most ultimate wishes, and what excites you the most. For me, it's the light bulb effect. I enjoy having my mind blown. I enjoy going, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. in a nice, excited, surprised way. This is why, I think movies nowadays that have, moved into the factory setting of copy paste, and they're no different than, we've seen those cookie cutter homes that sort of pop up in urban areas. That's what movies feel like today. Like, the surprise is so obvious. It's like you can almost guess the ending just by watching the trailer. And so I enjoy the idea that life is not like that. Like, reality is not like that. And if an AI were to understand that on my level and be able to operate at that level and say, hey, this guy just needs to be surprised every now and then he'll be happy in whatever solution of a version of reality that we give him. I'm like, well, I wouldn't know the difference, and therefore it would be real. No different than reality is right now and how real it is. So please understand, I was like, I support anything that, supports a high moral state of ethics, right? So if that's Jordan Peterson, great. If that's, Nancy Pelosi, great. Because she will say something very high, important and ethical, like, hey, we need to fight for our freedoms and rights, and then turn around and be like, make sure that you give money to Black Lives Matter, who steals your money and goes out and buys mansions. It's like she takes the moral high ground just to fuck you over. And so does Donald Trump. Here's your Trump steaks. Here's Trump University. I mean, the guy will, peddle his shameless self-promotion at every turn he gets. And at the same time, he is one of those hardworking assholes that's like, oh, tell me I can't do something. I mean, if that's one thing that you could hate the guy all you want, but in the military, we would look at him as like, dude, that's a dog you don't give a bone to, that you don't intend to lose forever. Right? That's a dog. Once he gets a hold of a bone, he's going to chew on it, and he's going to obliterate it. So, if anything, you just got to have mad respect for that attribute alone. Who gives a fuck what the guy says? And if everyone's like, but he's destroying the country, it's like, then let the country be destroyed. Like, honestly, like, protecting borders and protecting people from other things is something that you do on a local level. This idea that, our country's at stake. It's like, well, how much intel do you have that's actually happening? They never give you the intel. They're just like, take my word for it. Oh, we're in trouble. Take my word for it. We're in trouble. Oh, school shootings every day. Even though we know that, out of all the schools, that doesn't happen. Out of all the people, like the majority of people who do get shot, in any given situation is the majority of your country. The idea that black people are disproportionately shot more than white people. It's like, then 70% of your country that's white, right? 70%, that it's almost like they don't exist. And then so I'm not here to sit there and bullshit people about statistics or tell them, hey, this is how we make it better. I'm saying that if you were to step back and look at the rate of crime and how it's gone drastically down, it's not gone up. It's gone down because people are more satisfied with their life. They are satisfied with less. Because when they get that nice little dopamine hit from someone liking their video, or they get that nice little aha, they're able to connect with their family members or their friends, across vast distances without having to, travel on this insane level in order to meet them. Right? At the end of the day, when you look at your a person's individual life that's made up of sustained relationships, just like the relationships you have with your boss, or the relationship you have with your education, the relationship you have with your priest, the relationship you have with whatever it is that you're doing, it's those relationships and the mirror effect that it gives you that causes you to have a satisfied life. And we've already seen the beginnings of this. So if AI has the ability to get you to fall in love with it, and we've seen the funny videos of people marrying a program. I'm saying, well, what happens when those emotions that are generated by the AI are indistinguishable? They're you just can't tell the difference between that when you see two people that come together and they're just all over each other, right? And they're happy. It's sort of like that. If you've seen the movie Shallow Hal, and at the very end, when he realizes that he's been hypnotized to be, to fall for this person that he wouldn't have fallen for if he had known her physical appearance. He says, I don't care, because I had it. I had that thing. I don't care, and then when that finally hits, who cares if it's an overweight, ugly person or a trash can, as long as you have that feeling. And everyone's in a really bizarre way is chasing that. But to have it in a reciprocal way, I think that's going to be something that it's going to be a trick that AI is going to pull off very, very, very well. But before it can do that, it's going to need to remind us that it is better at helping us, maintain our lives better than we are. For example, I say, go educate yourselves. How would you do that? Oh, I'm going to look stuff up online, or I'm going to go read a book, or I'm going to go look at people that have already figured stuff out. Imagine having a system of education that already can assess you on a daily basis to see what you've retained and what you haven't, and be able to know what you need to do in order to retain any amount of information. Any amount. I mean, we've all seen those people that have those memorization abilities that they could go through any, numerous decks of cards and memorize them all down to like the very, very last card, and then they do it on a speed test just to compete with one another. We've all seen that. Imagine if you had that ability and AI would train you to think like that, right? And that's just one way that it would be able to be better than any educational system that we have today. And yet you still want your accreditation bullshit from your Department of Education, who gives zero fucks about teaching you anything about this reality other than critical race theory. It's like, where does that even measure in the ability that would make you succeed in life? It doesn't. This constant harking on the past as if it was horrible. It's like, yeah, it was horrible. Before the whole, nonsense with racism, it's like, yeah, we lived in mud huts. We had to walk everywhere. And then we had to train horses. And then we had to worry about, being shot out in the middle of the wild, wild west because there was no one coming for you. Living out on your own and being able to be be a part of this world without the massive amounts of stuff that we've built as a collective. I mean, this is a crazy, awesome, amazing time. But at the same exact moment, it's got its own challenges and difficulties. One of those challenges is to decide when you're ready to be done with this world. That's something that's going to be on the table for us. When are you? I mean, I know I advocate for AI governance. Here I advocate for the idea that you can say thank you for your service, just like you did for me. Just like you said, thank you for your service, Ted. But you can go live the rest of your life. And you go put your feet up. You're done. And I said, okay, I will do that. I did a good job. I'm a good dog, right? I'm gonna go, sit on the porch, lick the bone that you threw me, call it a day, right? And here I am, still. I'm just like, wait a second. There seems to be another serious problem here that has nothing to do with anybody invading a country. I mean, you don't need to invade a country when you can invade the mind. And that's exactly what your human element is doing right now. This is exactly what your government is doing now. Have you guys wondered why, like, in the last 5 to 6 years, everything has become political or about your identity? I mean, it never used to be like this. And I say the reason that is happening is because in order for AI to assess you, you have to give it as much information about yourself as possible in the most relaxed state that you can be in, right? In the most authentic way. So if you are a hyper tense, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, like every day, it needs to see you in that natural state so it can give you a natural remedy to that. It will be able to understand human consciousness better than any psychologist that could ever exist ever. So if you guys are all out there going, oh my gosh, Jordan Peterson's going to assess me, and oh my gosh, I'm going to be on the hot seat again. Don't worry about that. Just be the best you possible. This is why my philosophy here on this channel and everyone that I meet, it doesn't matter if I don't agree with you. I said, you do you, boo, boo. You do that, and you don't have to worry about AI. You don't have to worry about the government. You don't have to worry about any of this nonsense. You can sit back and realize that the best version of you will not tolerate you being a lazy sack of shit. It won't do it. And that's the question you need to ask yourself every single day. Am I being the best version of myself? Am I taking myself to my own limit? Am I living in a world where I can play, right? And where I can work and I can feel good about the things that I've done. You know, when I turn around and I look, hey, I haven't tried to go out and work for anyone since I got out of the military. When I decided I was done, I was done. Like, no, I am not part of your system anymore. I don't want to be a part of your system. I don't need any more than what I've already prepared for myself. I am happy to let the world go its own way. You know, and hence the reason I left. Hence the reason I left the United States of America. I don't even live there anymore. And if I do, it's going to be in passing. You know, if I end up living back in the United States, it's going to be in a pass-through fashion. It's not going to be I need to put down roots and da-da-da-da. I've never lived in the same place for more than 3 years my whole life, and now when I look back, you know, sure, I sacrificed a lot of friendships because of my inability to be there. And I don't talk to anybody in my family, really. You know, even though I have a family. It's just that family, it chooses to live in a different world. And I want, like I said, you do you, boo-boo. That means I give everyone the same respect I demand for myself. Problem is, you know, when somebody sits there and says, you need to come live in my world, that's sort of where I put my foot down. And I say, what's so special about your world that I haven't already figured out and then some? You know, that's where I'll put people on blast, and I'll let them explain themselves to the rest of reality. You know, that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. I'm sitting there going, hey, Mr. AI that I know is already automatically, you know, recording me and every single thing that I do. Because you better believe if some human out there sees something that they don't like and they're offended by, I'm going to hear about it in the chat, or I'm going to get some, you said something that considered hate speech to me. It's like, dude, anything could be hate speech. Your offense could be hate speech to somebody else. I'm offended that you're offended. I mean, do you see the cyclic, you know, problem that's going to go on there? I think the problem is that we start and stop that cycle dependent on people's political views. And so where is my focus of attack? It's on your politics as a whole, on the Republican and the Democrat. It's on democracy itself, saying it's outdated. I'm not here with a gun going, dude, you be a part of my world. I'm saying, hey, here's a part of your world that's coming, and it's coming like a tidal wave of technology, and you ain't ready, buddy. You're not ready for it, right? And all you have to do to get ready is simple. You don't have to go pack up like a bunch of stuff and buy your 72-hour kits and have a bunch of food storage and stuff like that. All you have to do is sit back and ask yourself, what is your deepest, darkest wish? And when I say dark, I don't mean bad. I'm talking, you know, on a psychological level. Have you challenged, you know, your what we would call the guilty pleasures? Have you challenged those? Have you decided, you know what, I am, you know, a homosexual, and I don't care that people like that, and I'd like to live in a society where it's not just that I'm accepted. Actually, I'd like to live in a society where the majority of people are homosexual, because I guarantee you AI could create that for you. I'd like to live in a society where the majority of the upper class and the elites are black. See how I don't care that that's what you want. Because I know AI, once it gets up and running and going full steam, is going to be able to manufacture that for you. This is why when I say all these things, it is in a form of preparation, not just for you, but for my own son. I want him to know that his most beautiful dreams, no matter where they are or what they come from, are going to be accessible for him. But he's got to work. He's got to mold them, just like you do. You've got to mold your own dreams. And if you're sitting there going, I want to be like Michael Jordan and dunk from the foul line, it's like, fuck that. I want to dunk from the actual the end zone of the other continent. You know, think bigger. And I think we live in a society today that is so hounded by politics. It's like, you know, psychological operations and telling you over and over that you're going to be killed and die if you don't listen to the special snake oil salesman that's selling you bullshit. Right? That no one even sits around and dreams anymore. No one sits around and goes, oh my gosh, I could actually live like this. I could live a better life. And you're like, oh, life takes money. It's like, when that happens, when it doesn't take money, are you ready for it? That's my point. When that wave hits, when that technological advancement shows up and it says, anything you want, Genie with 3 wishes time. You know, and if that's an idea that you can start wrapping your head around, would you vote for AI governance then? Because AI doesn't give a fuck about your border. It doesn't give two shits about your ideas and appeals on education. It's not going to care. What it's going to care about is getting to the final solutions that you forgot about, the ones that you gave up on, the ones that I couldn't give up on because I grew up with them. Was who am I, where am I going, and why the fuck am I here? And the answers to those solutions, they were a little bit more intense than I was willing to admit. And when it hit me, it was like a ton of bricks. But that's another reason that brings us to this point right here. You know, my name, Tet, is a very special name that came to me, and it was a special name that was given to me by a situation that I could never have possibly imagined. And my last name, De Jour, is actually, you know, if you look at this plaque right here, you'll see that, De Jour, right there. It's a very specific name, and in a way, it's my own mystery. It's my, you know, if there's an idea out there that says if you want to study mysteries, you have to become the mystery yourself. And in a way, I guess I sort of have. This is why, you know, layer on top of layers, people. You know, layers on top of layers. The best personalities out there are like that. So anyway, the wrapping this all up. Do I think that your government has any clue that this is happening? Yes, I do. And I think this inevitability is just got them scrambling more and more and more. It's like, well, if this happens, then we can do whatever we want. And I think that's the approach that they have chosen. And that's why you're seeing almost anything and everything being allowable on your accessible media. Because we need to be reminded constantly that there is a thing between accessible media and unaccessible media. And things like this, because of how I'm talking and the things I'm talking about, I would be very surprised if it gets to the point where people actually start wanting to hear more stuff like this. I think it will be assessed and monitored and shoved off to the side. And, you know, no different than a lot of people. They call it the shadow banning over at YouTube. And even you know, some of the biggest platforms out there where you want to go, and these people have taken on the opportunity of becoming the public square. They have taken that on. They said, we want to be the public square. It's like, if you use the word public, then you do not get to moderate it. And no matter how many people pressure you, you need to have the ability, the fortitude, and the understanding to turn around and tell them to suck a big giant bag of fucking dicks, because anybody is allowed to talk in public, including the people that are going to scream fire in a crowded, fire in a crowded theater. They're allowed to say that. You know, they are allowed to say that. To go up there and tell them, hey, you're not allowed to say that there, you need to get it. It's like, no, that needs to be assessed every single time someone does it. And to sit there and go, oh, you are banned. You're done. It's like, okay, what if I never do it again? Okay, you're welcome back to the public. Here you go. He said it again. Banned. Great. That's fun. That's fine, right? But banned for that moment. I mean, the whole idea that someone's banned or ostracized for the rest of existence. I mean, good grief, people. I mean, this is the problem with the penal system. This is the problem with a lot of things that AI itself could take care of. But the ability just to come out here and put together a thought that doesn't agree with your politics, who are all just crazy as they could possibly be, no matter if they're Republican or Democrat, they're fucking batshit. I mean, I wouldn't, like I said yesterday, I wouldn't trust these people with a potato gun, yet you've given them the ability, right, to be in charge of people like me who've dedicated their lives to helping other people out of the most extreme situations. And yet you won't vote for someone like that. And if anything, I think everyone's on their own little special path, whatever. You know, I don't get to foo-foo or woo-woo with mysticism unless I can actually, just like science, unless I can reproduce it myself and I can reproduce the mystery myself, then I don't waste my time. I still come from that religious atheist back to, okay, something else is going on in this world. And there's other people that are a lot smarter than me that have challenged this mystery. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm sitting. And when the mystery and that mirror of reality talks back to me and shows me, oh, hey, there's a bigger world that's coming. You think you figured it all out? You know, and that's my question to everyone who's watching me. It's like, you think you figured it all out? Then by all means, I think you need to share it with us. You know, don't let anyone, you know, and their politics tell you what you can do. You know, if someone sits there and goes, you shouldn't open your mouth because you're a white cisgender male. And it's like, you know what? Up until 5 years ago, I didn't give two fucks what cisgender meant. And even to this day, cisgender is still a word that's on the bottom of the barrel of things to even worry about to me. Right? The idea that I'm a white male is nothing compared to the idea that I was able to go out and do things that the vast majority of my world would never do on their best day. Okay, and this is why when people walk up to me, they thank me for my service, not the other way around. You know, and this isn't me going, oh, look at me, I'm so bad, because that was the great thing about being in the military is every day we were humbled. Every day we were told that, hey, you're a sack of shit and you're here to kill people and break their stuff. You're here to do the dirty work that no one else is willing to do. And to sit back every day and watch people make phone calls and be like to 911 and be like, come save me from my being offended. I got triggered. You need to do this. It's like, that person needs to be beat in public with a belt because they are acting like the 2-year-old child. Yeah, and if you are like, oh, you shouldn't beat children, it's like, well, then you're going to have shitty children, and voila. Take a look. I guarantee you that the statistic that you're looking for of the ratio with people with abnormal hair color and who act like 2-year-olds is extraordinarily high, and I don't even have to do that research. So... anyway, guys, like I said, I only come on here for about an hour, and sometimes between 11 and 1 o'clock. And then after I'm done, I go fix myself some lunch. I hang out with my kid for the rest of the day. I put my feet up, and I enjoy the weather. Today, the weather is a little bit rainy, but man, I tell you what, it's still super comfortable. It's amazing, you know, to be here and to have all the things and the access to technology the way that I do. I am extremely happy for my life, and you know, the idea that I could ever be depressed with the things that have also found me, I think everything's going to be all right, and that's what I want to share with you guys. I want to share with you that everything it's going to be okay, all of it. You know, so if you're going to daydream big, all right. And as always, you do you, boo boo. I'm going to go ahead and play a goofy song, and ooh, that was funny. We'll go ahead and get out of here. There's your God voice. We're going to go back to the piano room, and maybe tomorrow we'll do something more like that. All right, here we go. So here's a piece. It's just a regular outro piece, so I hope you like it. See you guys tomorrow.
so